So I'm going to move along quickly, and we're going to talk about the Water Supply Board property. Many of you know the Water Board Supply Board has functioned on Academy Avenue for many years. That property, they vacated, or they will vacate the property. I've asked the director of our planning department, Nickerson, to join us, and her team here. Buo is here, Mr. Sullivan is here, and they would like to talk to you about what's going on with that property. So, Bonnie?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. The councilwoman asked me to attend the meeting. Primarily, my goal is really to hear the feedback from the group about your thoughts for that building, and kind of community ideas about a reuse for that property. As you probably know, the Providence Water Supply Board has been under construction for a new home in the industrial park off of Huntington Avenue. So they will be vacating that building very soon, and it's a very prominent building in the neighborhood. Clearly, it's right along the street edge, and it's kind of an important building to the neighborhood. Just a couple of things about it, and then I want to introduce Buo to talk a little bit more about sort of the process. The building is on the city's what we call the Industrial and Commercial Buildings District, which means that it's been landmarked for its historic value. And I note that just because if we sold the building, or if we decided to do something else with the building, you'd have to go through a process in order to tear the building down. So I just wanted to note that any building that we have landmarked as historic, you go before the city's Historic District Commission, and in most cases you show what the plan would be to put in its place, a new construction in most cases, and then the project is evaluated at that time. So I just wanted to note that. And if the building were to be surplus by the city, there would be a process that we would go through, issuing an RFP and getting some interest from a variety of parties and kind of evaluating that at that time. So I just wanted to let folks know, that we recognize the building is very important to the neighborhood. What happens there, I think, is probably of keen interest to everybody. Al, is there anything else you would add?
Thank you, Bonnie. Actually, she did a very good job of describing the process of what we would do with a building that becomes vacant that the city occupied. At this stage, there are no real plans yet. We want to hear from the community with ideas and potential further uses, and that's where we are right now. There'll be more meetings like this in the community that will take your thoughts and really collect everything and get some really good ideas, and then we'll have to make some decisions as to which direction we're going to go based on the feedback we get.
You said that there were no real plans, but
Not as right now.
but everybody knows that the building's going to be torn down, that there's going to be parking for the Salle Academy, and that there's going to be a middle school for the Salle.
Can you?
You
That's
have to
actually
because we can't hear back there.
okay. So let me just jump right in here.
The building's going to be torn down.
One of the reasons why I wanted to invite. Okay, hold on a second, guys. Okay.
That,
Okay. So your question is.
my husband works where he gets a lot of information, and this is the information that many people have brought to him.
Okay. Can I just jump in?
And that
There's a lot of
there's a
rumors.
middle school that's going to be built for us out, and this talk has been going on and on and on and on.
Okay, so can I just jump in? I asked Bonnie and Al to come today to address everyone so that everyone could hear what is going on. There are a lot of rumors flying around. There are a lot of rumors saying that LaSalle is interested in the property, LaSalle is going to build a middle school, LaSalle is doing this, that, and the other thing. That is not the case. What is happening right now is that the property is going to be vacated, and that there's a process, and Al spoke about it, when that property is city-owned. I actually asked Tom Glavin also to join us. I don't know if you folks know Tom, former councilman. He's a member of a resident of the 5th Ward. He also works up at LaSalle Academy, and he's here to answer any questions that you might have about LaSalle's. They do have an interest in the property. So I'm gonna turn it over to Bonnie.
Yeah,
again, but-
I would just say to that
So you can
anytime.
look me in the face and say
Sure.
the building's not gonna be torn down September 1st?
Yes.
The building's vacated by September 1st.
Absolutely.
I believe that it's still occupied September 1st, but the process that we just laid out is the process. I think there's a lot of interest in the building from a lot of people. Clearly LaSalle's a neighbor and likely has been thinking about that property for a long time. So there is quite a bit of interest in the property, I think, from a variety of parties. But the first thing the city does anytime we have a surplus property is we have to evaluate the city's needs internally. And so we are starting to go through that process as well. So the property hasn't officially been surplus at all. In fact, it's actually, we haven't even come to the decision that it will be surplus. So we're here at the early stages of the process, really to just let you know what stage we are in that process. And also to get some community feedback about what you all would like to see with the
Or
building.
you don't wanna see.
Or what you don't want to see. Yeah.
Honestly, as a neighbor here, and truthfully, LaSalle Academy already has opened middle school. People may not be aware of that because we thought as neighbors there would be a big deluge of cars. It really hasn't impacted us. You know, and I live on Academy, getting in and out hasn't been a problem
Yeah.
with the new middle school. I would prefer to see LaSalle buy it. I don't know if we can get a petition signed because I know that it's a good neighbor, a quiet neighbor,
Yeah.
and we know what kind of clientele it's going to bring in. There's talk and rumors in the neighborhood that we don't want, for example, Price Right moving up
Exactly.
into this neighborhood because as we know there are gangbangers, I don't know if that's the correct term, that do steal cars and that kind of element. I don't want that in my neighborhood. I don't want housing put there. I want LaSalle to buy the property. And if we as a neighbors can get behind that, if they want to, I would be willing to help spearhead that project. I've already
Can
talked
you
to the
see me
president of
after?
LaSalle.
I would like to
I
have your
would
contact
guarantee you
information.
that LaSalle
I
is
would
gonna
like to
end up
say that
here.
I can affirm that many neighbors that I have spoken to have said the same exact.
How many have said that they don't want it?
I'm with
Well,
you.
most have said they
Thank you.
want
Okay,
it.
I'm here
Thank you.
one that says that I don't
No
want it.
community centers, nothing. We don't need any more community centers. A lot of areas down there. LaSalle is a perfect match for that
Perfect.
property. They keep their property pristine.
Yeah.
They have the money. They'll do wonderful things with that property.
Thank you.
They can even route the buses around the back. We won't see them on the street. Give it to LaSalle for $1. Providence doesn't need them.
I'll second that.
Give it to LaSalle for $1.
Let's do it right now, Bonnie. Let's see what they say.
Sell it, tow it.
I would
We do
only want to
auction.
see that if they could control the traffic, because I live right across the street from there. People park in my driveway, they pull into my driveway, they block the driveway, I can't back out of my
How
driveway.
about
The
Wayton
kids cross
Avenue?
everywhere, the buses are across the street, the SUVs are parked, I can't
Everywhere.
get out of my driveway.
It's awful.
And if I come home, I
I'm
can't
sorry,
get
it
in
is.
it.
I work in a business
it's
part-time
ridiculous.
across the
Yeah,
street
this
from
is-
LaSalle,
this is-
and people that use the business, that park in the subway parking lot, that go there, can't park in there in the mornings and after school and when there's events, because that's where they park.
And
It's not fair
repeated
to the
appeals
patron.
to the school fall on deaf ears. They do not care about the neighbors
Do you know how
across
many
the
people
street.
go from
They
Providence to that
don't.
school? From city, Providence, kids go there? Do you know how many?
How many?
I'm asking.
No, I don't.
I can tell you,
Tell us,
almost 200,
200, and how many kids go to the school totally?
about 1,500.
1,500, so 200 out of 15
Yep.
are city kids.
So this kind of banter is exactly why we do these sort of community meetings. So we get the real feedback from the community, and we can take that information back and use it for positive view.
If and when it's torn down, we live on Elm Cross, Park Avenue, which is adjacent to the building. Would they offer us protection from the dust and dirt? What would they do?
So if the property were transferred, the person, whoever, if it were going to be transferred and if it were going to be demolished, they would have to go through a plan of how they were going to do it. The city wouldn't be doing that. It would be whoever the property was transferred to, and likely they would have to come up with a plan with the surrounding properties of how they were going to do that in a safe way. Right, so that would be so they would take up if the city were to transfer the property.
We had to get no parking signs to keep those out stop students from parking in front of our house.
It's very congested.
You're in a neighborhood, and that's the type of.
Craven Avenue, you can't walk because they park on both sides of the street.
Can you give us examples of what properties like this have been utilized for in the past? You're looking for ideas, can you share some with
Typically,
us?
something like that would become, as Mrs. Maloney said, a recreation center or some sort of other city service. But, everything's on the table here. So we want to really see.
I mean, it's actually an unusual property.
Yeah,
when
it
you
is,
think about
because
it's quite a
of-
large building, and it's a very large piece of land. So the city, I can't think of any recent examples of a surplus piece of property that's that significant and that large, both in terms of the structure and the available acreage.
They just made
So
a
it's fairly
ballpark that no one uses next to Mount Pleasant. It's a beautiful piece of land. It's gigantic compared to the land that you're talking about. Whatever you're discussing now, send it up there, Mount Pleasant Avenue. That ballpark is a waste of money. There's no one even in it. I walk by it every single day, there's no one.
There is no plan that's being
Perfect.
discussed at the moment. We want to field information from the community. Yes, sir.
Just a few comments. One, 200 out of 1,300 is roughly 13% of your students are from the city.
Exactly.
That's
And-
very low.
It is very low, it's incredibly low. And second of all, I believe that there are a number of public schools that are in terrible disrepair in this city. And so if we're going to make it an educational building, if that's what people decide, then it should first of all be an educational building that provides a place for the students of this city at taxpayer dollars and not at tuition dollars. That's my feeling. That's just what I'm saying as far as, if we're looking at educational purpose for the school, and we're looking at this, and there are public school buildings in this city that are in terrible disrepair and in some instances have run health hazards, then that needs to be a first priority.
Bonnie, would that be a brownfield? Is there a lot of contaminants in that area? How would that affect the uses of?
I don't know if there's an environmental report
I
filed.
can answer that. Are you talking about the parking lot at water supply?
Let's get an answer from the property manager to
Well,
the
so,
city.
basically, if you were to test any soil in the city, you'd come up with some contaminants, just because of the heavy industrial use that it went through that whole age and the manufacturing era. So almost any soil in the city is going to come positive with some sort of, I don't know, maybe not a brownfield per se, but there'll be almost anywhere in the city that will have that sort of. You did have usage there that heavy machinery there, so no doubt any industrial type of use like that will come up with some chemical.
They have all the gas and oil tanks.
Yeah, and there will be USTs there as well, that's right.
There are levels of contamination. To what extent is this trace elements, and to what extent is this a serious health hazard?
I don't know what tests have been done on that property. Providence Water, while being there, basically managed their own property. It's not a property that is managed by the city. We own the property, but as a semi-autonomous agency of the city, they ran and operated the property as their own. So that will be something that we will have to do going forward.
How frequently are tests required?
I couldn't tell you that. On that type of facility, I don't know. Yes, sir.
You said there was a lot of interest in the property. Does that include the building?
The building as it stands,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some people that will want to repurpose the building. I'm sure there's some people that will want to.
You don't know.
I don't know. At this point, no. Because right now, we're just.
They haven't offered it.
Yeah, it's still occupied. They're planning on leaving shortly.
But I mean, what I would like to know, you said that there's been a lot of interest.
Right.
Has the city been approached by groups that wanna do something,
Not
then we'll have to go
Yes.
through the process. But have you
Yeah.
been contacted with people looking to use the property?
Not specifically with a well thought through proposal. I think what I mean by that is to say, I know there is quite a lot of interest in what's going to happen to this very significant piece of land and very significant building. There's been a lot of discussion about it, people have asked me about it.
Bonnie,
What are
I'd
you
like to
doing?
just interrupt and say that LaSalle has expressed an interest in the
That's
property.
well thought out.
Oh, of course, but I mean in terms of, have we gotten a redevelopment plan for the
No.
property and no, that's not,
That
that's,
wasn't really the question, though. You're given the political landscape. The question was, is anybody close to the city saying that there is a city problem?
so beyond LaSalle as the immediate neighbor, no one has submitted any kind of proposal to us because we haven't issued a request for proposals on this.
To answer that question,
Please.
I'm Barry Sullivan, the Director of Real Estate, so I deal more with the client base. No one's come to me specifically for it, but there are potential requirements, real estate requirements from both the state level, who I met with today from Commerce, Rhode Island, and the ones that we deal with directly through our office, that when it does become available, if it fits the requirements, some of those have physical requirements for vacant lots, or for a vacant lot, or for actually buildings. So, but we're not there yet. We wouldn't be able to tell somebody. I mean, there's biotech companies, everybody's looking for these properties, because there's very few inventory properties like this. It's, as Barney said, it's very unique, but we're not there yet. So I know that LaSalle is interested. My kids went there. I think they're great, but there's a lot to consider. You're gonna have to consider who's paying taxes, and everybody here is impacted by what goes there. That's part of it, that's part of the analysis, but you know, we also have to consider the rest of the city as far as if they're not gonna pay taxes. I mean, they want the building for $1, Tom, that's great, you get the building for $1. But on the other end, we'd like to be able to get taxes as well to spread out the tax base, so your taxes don't go up. So there will be a tremendous, just because there's such a limited supply of buildings available in Providence, there'll be a lot of interest in that building once it gets marketed.
Would that come off the tax roll if LaSalle buys it?
That, again, one of these things that can't be answered at this point because we haven't got there yet.
May I ask you, is that a historical building?
I'll go.
Yes,
Are there restrictions?
yes.
Then you can't knock that down.
So as I said in the beginning, it's on a list that we call the Industrial and Commercial Buildings District, which is one of our historic districts.
Keep it there.
So it's been landmarked. What that means is that you have to go in front of the Historic District Commission if you would like to take down a landmark building. Then you have to explain what you're going to put in its place, and then you present that, and there's a discussion about the merits of that. So you can't just knock the building down without going through that process.
Will there be other meetings, like if someone does come to you and say a biotech company, will the community be involved and have meetings and have a voice in
The
this?
community will be involved.
Absolutely.
Not everything.
Yeah, because the zoning is such that any other use or repurpose of the building is probably gonna have to go through some type of public notice. And there's no way you're gonna wake up one morning and see a new use in that building.
But beyond the process, we're committed to, with the councilwoman, having community meetings like these. And because, again, it's such a significant part of the neighborhood, I think it's important that everyone knows what's happening, when, and what the ideas are that are out there.
That's great, thank you.
You said that the building has not yet been surplus because the city is still evaluating whether it needs the building for another use.
Correct.
What's the timeline for that determination?
At this point, I mean, you know, again, we're looking at, everything is on the table, so there's no timeline where we're gonna say there's a definitive, we're gonna draw a line and say this is it. You know, the councilman will be involved in that, and the administration will be involved.
Well, you'll know if you need it for another city use at some point, and then you're gonna potentially consider other uses for it.
We will, but right now, we're still at that point where we don't have a plan to use that building for another either city use.
There was a rumor, if I could just interrupt, that DPW, the Department of DPW was going to be using it. And that is just a rumor, that is not going to happen, because we certainly don't want DPW trucks coming in and out of that parking lot, because they're a 24/7
What's the
operation.
difference? With the water trucks coming up and down the street on Academy Ave all the time too, what's the difference between that and the DPW?
Because it's not a 24/7 operation, it's an entirely different operation with DPW. So that is one rumor that we can, Bonnie, would you agree with me that that is not true? The DPW has told me and the mayor has told me.
I hadn't heard that until today, so I hadn't even heard that rumor.
That is indeed a rumor, and the mayor has told me that that's not gonna happen. And another concern that I've heard is that neighbors don't want it vacant. And that's a concern for me as well, for safety. And I have heard, a lot of people would like LaSalle to have it, and for many of the reasons we discussed, but also it would leave some of the parking space. There's some differences in the rumors that I'm hearing what LaSalle would do if they did end up buying it. And I actually asked Tom Glavin, and if you feel comfortable addressing the group as to what LaSalle's interest in that property might be.
Absolutely. I know many of you people here anyway, grown up in this neighborhood, lived here for 64 years. Let me tell you what's not going to go there if LaSalle was fortunate enough to acquire the property. There's not going to be a middle school there. There's not going to be a hockey rink there. There's not going to be a swimming pool there. There's probably not going to be anything there in the short run. One of the things that we're very concerned about, and this woman in the back addressed it, is parking. Parking in the neighborhood. I can hit LaSalle Academy from my front porch, so I'm as close to it as just about anybody here. They park in front of my house, these kids. They're all good kids. They're 16, 17 years old.
It's not the kids, it's the parents.
Exactly, exactly. And we want to get the cars out of the neighborhood. We want to put them on the campus. Some of our students have been approached by people in the neighborhood. We all live here. We see some of the people walking on the streets. They've been approached for money from panhandlers. Some of the girls have had people follow them towards school. We would like our students on our secure campus. We have security. You probably see the guys driving around, keeping an eye on our cars. At some point in the future, the school may have some need to put a building on it, but there are no immediate plans. We would initially, if we were able to get permission, we've spent a considerable amount of time within that building. Anyone who has not been within the building may have a different opinion of it being repurposed than those of you who have not been through it.
Yeah.
It's a very old building, and it's in a very unique, the way it's been built, it's basically a large garage. Yeah. It's really what it is, with timbers that are like 10 by 10 or whatever. Now, could someone with the amount of money come in and repurpose it? I suppose they could, if they wanted to invest, millions and millions and millions of dollars. We looked at it from the perspective of possibly repurposing it, possibly to house our middle school in the future. And it was, our engineers and architects advised us that it just wouldn't work. It's just not feasible. It's not economically feasible. So in the short run, what we would do is we would probably petition the city to demolish the building, and we would create parking. It would be landscaped to maintain the rest of LaSalle Academy's campus. I think, you could agree or disagree. I know some of the parents, I see it out my office window. Trust me, I've had confrontations with some of the parents. But we're a good neighbor. We're a major anchor for this part of the city. In addition to the 200 Providence students who go to the school currently, I went to LaSalle Academy, born and raised. Both my daughters went to LaSalle Academy. They live 6 streets over. A lot of Providence residents go to LaSalle Academy. We also have a number of employees who live in this district, who work at LaSalle Academy. And we would like initially, in the short run, to take that property, totally renovate it. It would be first class, lighting, landscaping, trees. I love this concept that Bob was talking about this water runoff. I was unaware of this, and that's something I'm going to bring back to the school. I'm certain that Brother Thomas, the president, would be willing to entertain concepts to see how we could participate in that effort. And that's really the long and short of it. We've been in this neighborhood for over 100 some odd years. Probably many people in this room who either went to LaSalle or their kids went to LaSalle. It's an important part of this community, and we think we're a natural adjunct to the property. We're both zoned the same zoning, so there's no zoning variances needed for anything that we're going to do. They're both zoned open space, and anyone else who's going to go in there is going to need zoning variances to deal with that. We wouldn't, other than the permission from the Providence Historic District Commission about demolition. And let me assure you, our first inclination was not to demolish. We were looking to maybe see if we could preserve it. It just doesn't seem feasible. It just doesn't, based upon what we've been told by the engineers. So that's really it in a nutshell. Get the kids out of the parking lot. And I do want to just correct someone who said the school does nothing about it. We send home notices to the parents. We send home emails to the parents. We speak at public assembly to the parents.
Why don't they ever answer me then? Every time I call or write a letter, I ask, please get back to me about this. Please come. No one ever calls me.
I can't answer. I'll ask. I mean, right now, we're still
I'd
a couple
like
weeks.
to know if something's being
No,
done.
they
At
do.
least answer
They do.
me.
They specifically, we'll be having opening orientation in the next couple of weeks. It is always discussed. Well, I see some of the stuff, I've had confrontations with parents. As I'm pulling the driveway and somebody pulls a U-turn, I can't be
about
having it.
those people, those parents, and how rude and crude they are.
Some of them are.
The neighbors.
Some of them are. I'm not going to make an excuse for them. Some of them are.
Parking on that side?
Pardon?
Put no parking signs up on that street, near the school.
Well, we
Let them
couldn't
go
put
in
them on the opposite side, and on the other side, that's where the buses go.
Well, that's not a problem on that side,
Yeah.
with the parking with the cars. Just put no parking signs up. Let them go in the parking.
Well, they don't park on our side. You very seldom see cars parked on our side. The buses come, the kids get discharged, and then they go into school. It's the other side where they'll wait. The only time they'll do it is right at the end. They can't do it right after school because the buses are there. And so
Why haven't they rerouted those buses to go around the back of the building?
they've looked at it, and it's just not feasible. It
Why
just
isn't it
isn't
feasible?
If you took
It's
a
a
look
road,
at
there's
the
a
width
natural
of,
road
if you
there.
took a look at where the buildings are located and the width of the roads, it's just not feasible.
Well, you have a parking lot adjacent to the road. Take some of the
Well, no, you're talking routing it through the back of the school.
Yeah, go right around the back.
There's a one, two-lane road right behind the school, and there's a bigger one, a slightly bigger one in the back. There's just, it would not be feasible to route 20 school buses through there. It just wouldn't be feasible.
There's no room near that stadium there where you're at. There's no room. It's all grassed area.
Well, there's room down there, but you couldn't route buses down there. You have to drop the kids
You
off
move the
somewhere.
cars, the parking towards that way, the buses could go.
And the other thing is those spaces are really utilized for parking by students.
But if you extend it towards the stadium, the cars will park there,
There's
the
no room,
buses can
there's
go
no
around.
room. There really isn't. Because the stadium is right up, there's only a very small parking area. That issue's been raised and we have looked at it.
Have you considered incentives for something like carpooling? Something that would reduce car time?
I don't know if that's ever been discussed. It's an interesting suggestion. Yeah, it's an interesting suggestion. And we have children, not only the kids, we have a significant amount of young people, many from this community, by the way. You see them walking up Academy Avenue, you see them walking down the side streets. But we also have kids like when I went there 45 years ago. Yes. But they come from all over Rhode Island. I mean, it's always been that way. They come from Cranston, Warwick, North Kingston. They come from everywhere. And that's the nature of the school.
Okay.
I've got your beat. 60 years next year.
All right.
You don't look
You don't look.
pretty good.
What about the use of the building for voting? What's gonna happen?
All those things are going to be discussed. Right now, the building has not been vacated. The Water Supply Board is still there. So the city will address all those issues in time. I asked these folks, I might have just jumped the gun, but I know that my neighbors are very anxious to know what's going in that building or what's going to happen with the building. So that's why I asked Bonnie and her team to come. And I also knew that there were a lot of rumors flying around. And I asked Tom, and I really thank you very much, Tom, for coming and explaining LaSalle's interest. So that's about it. We're a little early. Things going on right now that anyone should be concerned about. We do want to engage the community, and I certainly will be an advocate to make sure that your voices are heard. And I know that Bonnie and her team are very anxious to have another meeting in the not too distant future about the possibilities for that property once it's discerned by the city what will happen or what needs to happen.